Refresh rates have become a bigger deal in the past few years than they ever were before, and high refresh rates are rather commonplace now. More importantly, monitors with high refresh rates can actually be quite affordable today. But are they worth it? Some people still have their reservations about refresh rates. After all, 3D monitors were incredibly huge one day, only to fade into oblivion the next. With that in mind, let's take a look at exactly what 144Hz monitors bring to the table. Are they just another gimmick, or do they offer tangible advantages and disadvantages? Now, we've already made a video on refresh rates that you can check out via the link in the description, so we won't go too in-depth. But here's the general gist. The refresh rate determines how many frames a monitor can display each second, and it's measured in hertz. It effectively places a hard cap on your FPS, because even if your GPU can render 100 frames per second, a 60Hz monitor will only be able to display 60 frames per second. Most monitors come with the standard 60Hz refresh rate, but 144Hz is more popular than ever, and here's why. Basically, the advantages of high refresh rates are the advantages of high frame rates. The more frames are shown each second, the smoother and more responsive the gameplay experience will be. Additionally, higher frame rates help prevent motion blur, which is especially great for those of us who suffer from motion sickness. But the undeniable reason why competitive gamers prefer using high refresh rate monitors is that they do give you that competitive edge. With more frames per second, you are fed more information, and this can lead to better reaction times. We're talking about tiny fractions of a second here, but in multiplayer games, this can mean the difference between winning and losing. And with how huge esports have become, it's easy to see why gamers love them. Now, this is all fine in theory, of course, but in reality, there are aspects other than refresh rate that need to be considered. And 144Hz monitors, especially the cheap ones, make certain trade-offs that you should be aware of. So let's talk about the disadvantages of a 144Hz monitor. The cheaper 144Hz monitors usually manage to reach their low price by opting for either a TN panel or, less commonly, a lower quality VA panel. This isn't to say that there aren't excellent 144Hz monitors with quality IPS or VA panels out there, but they tend to be on the pricey side. The biggest flaw of TN panels is that they offer poor color reproduction. Compared to IPS monitors, the colors on a TN monitor look rather washed out. They also have limited viewing angles, although this is generally not a problem for gamers since we're facing the monitor directly most of the time. As for VA panels, while they do have a good color reproduction on par with IPS, they suffer from higher pixel response times and ghosting. This contributes to motion blur and can make them feel less responsive than TN panels. And finally, there's the fact that a monitor with the high refresh rate does absolutely nothing on its own. They only have real value if your GPU can squeeze out enough frames per second to match the refresh rate. This isn't a problem for esports, as those games themselves aren't very demanding so that they could reach a wider player base. But you'll need to run a truly high-end graphics card, and possibly more than one, to get the latest AAA games to reach triple-digit frame rates without turning down the graphics settings. So with all of the above in mind, are 144Hz monitors worth it? As is often the case, the answer is, it depends. It all comes down to whether you value visual quality or performance. Of course, you can have your cake and eat it too by opting for a more expensive IPS monitor, but in most cases, a 144Hz monitor is only really worth it for the competitive edge in multiplayer. As for single-player games, most will agree that the added responsiveness is not worth sacrificing the visuals that a good 60Hz IPS or VA monitor can provide. Of course, this is just our 2 cents on the matter, but we think that it serves as a good rule of thumb for those who aren't sure about these monitors. If you want to play single-player games on a 144Hz monitor, that's absolutely fine as well. In fact, if you're looking to buy a new monitor, you should definitely check out our list for the best gaming monitors. With over 24 diverse models covering everything from budget to high-end, from Full HD to 4K, and from 60Hz to 240Hz. It's bound to have one that's just right for you. The link is in the description. And there you have it, 144Hz monitors, the good and the bad. We hope you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe if you did, and tell us what you think in the comments below. Also, if you want to know more about monitors in general, there's a link for you in the description for the video titled What to Look For in a Gaming Monitor. As always, we'll see you next time on Gaming Scan.